Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of the AyurAstro report, so to speak. Today, we'll be talking about a recent translation effort of mine titled Vagbhata's Ashtanga Hridayam. And we're going to discuss with Molly McConnell here, lovely Ayurvedic practitioner at cultivatebalance.com. Um, Such topics as welcome, Molly, the sort of provenance of the material, the lineage of the material, and um, how Ayurveda globally is part of road cultures, crossing borders and mixing, and what all of this may mean. So maybe some other topics too. So I think we both have our editions out here. Yay! And let me first show you how you can find this on Amazon. Both the paperback and the Kindle editions live on the same page. So I'm going to share my screen. One moment. Hmm. Alrighty, so you should see um, my Amazon. So I'll just type in my last name. This may be the quickest, but you can also type in Vagbhat. Vagbhat is spelled Vagbhat. That's sort of uh, the Hindi contraction of Vagbhata, and it's often referred to as Vagbhat, Vagbhat's Ashtanga Hridayam. So you'll see this green sort of icon at the very top. Um, Click on that where it says a full English translation by Renay Oshab, that's me, as translator, and Vagbhat, of course, as originator. Click on that guy, and this page will come up. Uh, and I'm going to um, first, I think, try to describe why this is an important text for anybody interested in Ayurveda. Now, as we sort of begin this conversation, I want to emphasize that perhaps as a very, very first introduction text to Ayurveda, it might be obscured a bit by a lot of Sanskrit, a lot of technical terminology. So I would refer you instead to Vasant Lad's book on um, intro. I think isn't it called Introduction to Ayurveda, the red book of his.
The
So,
science of self-healing.
oh, thank you. Yeah, here we go. Ayurveda, the Science of Self-Healing, a Practical Guide. This is a great first book. Plenty of illustrations by a renowned global teacher, a renowned global lineage holder of a very firm lineage, and he's fantastic, and I'm honored to say I was able to study with him. So you can,
Renee,
mm, yeah.
oh, sorry, go ahead, but I do just have an interjection when you finish your thought here.
Oh, just that other books by him are wonderful too, such as Ayurvedic Home Remedies.
Mhm.
And maybe after those two books, I would jump to volume one of the textbook, and then we can start to talk about the big three
Yeah.
of classical Ayurveda.
Yes, I would love to, just as you're talking about lineage, to kind of bring it back to who is Vagbhat, if anyone,
Mm,
and and
sure.
and yeah, how does this ancient Ayurvedic text kind of situate within the lineage of Ayurveda and kind of the three big texts? And then we can get into kind of why it's significant to have this translation in this moment. How does that sound?
I love that. Yeah, thank you. Let's talk about that. So, what Malay is talking about in Sanskrit is sometimes called the Brihat, I'll type that in, Trayi, which means the auspicious or wonderful three. Um, and I just jumped to the Wikipedia page just to give you something to refer to. The Great Triad of of holders of ancient knowledge. They are Charaka, um, Shushrup, and Vagbhat. Charaka means the wanderer, the traveler, and he um, is said to have, uh, well, the technical word is redacted, uh, to compress and to coalesce the extended works of a person named Agni Vesha, a legendary rishi, a legendary sage, and chief pupil of Atreya. So at this point, we're talking 1500 BCE for Agnivesha, and then for Charik, uh, he came some hundreds of years after that. So he wandered around the globe, it is said, and taught the compressed information of Agnivesha in something called the Charaka Samhita. So yeah, you can see that he is said to have been anywhere from 4th century BCE to 1st century BCE. Um, so that's a 1200 to 1000 year difference from Agnivesha to Charik. So Charik again is the wanderer. I think there's on this page, this Wikipedia page on Charik, one of my favorite paintings, period. Oh no, it's not here. Okay. But it's a beautiful painting of an imagined Charik by like a Russian painter from like the early 1900s. So I'll try to find that and put it in the information.
Are
But go,
there currently some pretty good translations of this iteration?
of the Charaka Samhita, what I would recommend, and this does tie into a work that we'll be discussing today, of what is a contemporary, like what do we do with all of this knowledge, which is both like in a sense furthest away than it's ever been in time to us, while being the most like immediate, like on our phones in our hip pocket at the same time. So for Charaka, I would definitely recommend Charaka Samhita online.com. And it's a website of linked translations. Let's see if it'll pull up if I type that right. Come on. Did I type it right? I think I did. Please. Maybe I'll search for it instead. Maybe it is without the H in it in Chark. Um, Samhita online. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah. So I just searched for three separate words, Charaka Samhita online. Um, I'll click on the little logo up top. All right, so here we go. The new edition, the definitive online edition of the core treatise on healthcare with 804 articles. So you can click around here and see it's in a kind of Wikipedia format itself, and very searchable, um, and pretty wonderful implementation of online um, skills and tools available to us. I did do a kind of homage, or I meant to, I hope it lands, but to that work of Charaka Samhita online, go to AyurAstro.com, which is my website, click on Tools up top, and then go down to Ask Charak under the AI and Research department of that page and open Tool. And it says tap the owl in the lower right. And you can see that you can talk with the Charaka Samhita online. This is approved by the license and terms of the online edition. So that's great. We want to honor all of that. So, like for instance, we could say, what just in casual English, what are herbs or in Sanskrit, prameha, but we'll keep to English and say diabetes, question mark. It'll think for a few seconds and pull up with references to that website, that online website of Charak Samhita, the relevant passages. And here it is. So yeah, and you can read for yourself. But we're seeing things like cinnamon, pushkamula, um, Mesha Shringi, Jambu, and so on. And the references are there. For example, here's the whole chapter on prameha, on diabetes. So you can click on that and you'll see a whole
I
chapter on
I love this resource, Renee. I'm so glad that we got a
that.
chance to take a little side quest to experience that. Will you tell
Yeah,
us about Shushrut a little bit?
absolutely. Yeah. So going back to Brihat tree, Trai, if you will, Shushrut means well heard. So I love even the names of the Brihat tree. Charik, once again, is the wanderer. Sushrut is someone who heard well the sounds. And there's Jyotish there in terms of the nakshatra for hearing being tied to Mars and being tied to surgery and Mars being tied to surgery. And Shushut was the surgeon, and he had tools and techniques that he developed that are still in use for things like air quotes nose jobs or eye surgery. Yes, they had eye surgery or ear, repair from battle or something. And intestinal surgery and stuff. And for those maybe coming from the West who cringe at this uh, happening 1,000 years ago, um, consider this, as part of the Mars honoring of this school, they would douse the metal blade they would use with Agni, with flame, with fire, which of course would disinfect it.
Yeah.
And much like was used in the past 100 years in American surgery rooms and so on. So this is not. I mean, it's from a while ago, but it's not without internal consistency and efficacy,
And what is the time frame for Shushrut relative to Chaddak?
uh, about 1,000 years later.
Mhm.
So, you know what I'm going to find and put in as a link here is a very recent study done by a sort of philological school in India, where they did a whole timeline of all the great treatises, of all the great shastras, as they're called, including Ayurvedic Shastra, but also Jyotish Shastra, Archery Shastra, um, some
What's a
other ones, like great texts, if you will. And you can see they just did a wonderful job of showing, the distribution of it, the timelines of it, one timeline, the last 5,000 years, but of the different texts, and they colored them according to whether they were Hindu or what we would call Hindu, or Buddhist texts, or Vaisheshika kind of philosophically oriented schools, or uh, sort of Arabic schools, or um, uh, more Vedantic traditions, and so on. So it's one of
Yeah.
the more wonderful images I've seen this year. So I try to include that as maybe an introduction or something to this conversation. So,
And
mhm, go ahead.
I I was gonna ask what are the modern translations of Shushrut like?
Yeah. So if we go back to Amazon, I mean, we can see that there were in approximately the 1980s um, a lot of translations, multi-volume translations coming out in English. You can see that here, 3 volumes for $89 or so plus tax um, for Shushrut. Uh, and a sort of similar price for maybe twice as many volumes for Charik. And Vagbhat, is maybe the weakest translated into English of all, which is part of why I wanted to focus on Vagbhat. So you can see that uh, these editions, if you go to them, they all tended to come out in the 1980s, which is when Ayurveda started to spread into the West through the work of such luminaries as Vasant Lad and other like Swami Brahmananda, Swami Shivananda, Swami Satyananda, these great swamis coming to the West, making students who speak English really want to learn this material. And so Vedic astrology, so-called, let's call it for now, Vedic astrology, really zoomed uh, in the West, and so with it, a need for English translations. However, if you look at what was possible back then coming from India, um, just frankly, there were production errors that were pretty common, like whole chapters missing, or other chapters duplicated, or just some awkwardness, shall we say. So that also motivated me. Just in terms of my personality.
It's amazing that we have these texts from more than 1,000 years ago that are able to be translated at all and that were translated in the 80s. And it does feel like it's kind of time to revisit that, especially for Vagbhat.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about Vagbhat, maybe in general for a second. He's the third of the big three, a triad of the great, is one translation. And it means well heard, Vagbhat, well spoken. I'm sorry, Sushrut is well heard, Vagbhat is well spoken. So there's a beautiful, just right there, a kind of give and take, a kind of call and response between the uh, heroic uh, interventions of Shushut and the more Hippocrates, like generalist, like let's keep this person alive, this patient alive forever as long as we can, orientation of Vagbhat. Um, so uh, I think, yeah, all of this is like a fascinating um, situation and a wonderful realm of academics, just the Brihat tree, and to really sort of step into it is an honor and a grace, I feel, and I'm grateful for the experience. Again, as you and I have lately talked about, it took about 7 years, all told, to honor Vagbhat, and really brought up um, fundamental questions of lineage and um, the word in Sanskrit for lineage is parampara, which means from the beyond to the beyond, perhaps might be a translation. And it's a very serious thing. The guru shishya, this teacher student um, relationship. So I kind of at age I date myself, but what, 48 or something, um, took this on, and separate from being part of a Gurukulam from a school. Uh, I did teach Sanskrit at the local Gurukulam of Ayurveda in my town, and that was a great experience for which I'm very grateful. Um, but this was like a whole other thing. Yeah, this was less pedagogy and more immersion, and long enough. That it was a journey, it wasn't um, all at once, that's for sure. So going back to Amazon, I thought we could walk through uh, the two offerings, but before I do so, any last questions on the Brihat treat before we continue?
Well, I don't know if this is too much like of a tangent, but do you believe that these are three individual people? I've
Hmm.
also heard it theorized that some of these books were created by like groups coming together to create to synthesize the teachings and to
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I would honor the content, which says, no, no, this is a great physician and an individual who created great schools that went on for centuries. But
Mhm.
Vagbhat was indeed an individual, Shushrut was an individual, and so on. I've also heard kind of I don't know, what shall we call it, uh, the ghost story or something of um, Patanjali being Charak or something like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so uh, I don't think so. I think Patanjali is amazing, mind-blowing, but there's enough linguistic difference
Mhm.
and content difference and yeah, stylistic difference in the language. I would personally be very surprised. And plus, for that particular example, I think that the Yoga Sutras are from like a different millennium than um, Charik. So I'm sort of curious. Let's pull up yoga theory not being my main focus. Um I mean I adore the Yoga Sutras, but it's not at the top of my head. Their realm in the timeline, what zone of the timeline they were from. Yeah, see, it's first century CE, so that's 500 years after Charik or so. That's a chunk of time, even with the slowness of communication and so on back then. Uh, I mean, that's an era. That's enough to claim an era of difference, a significant difference between Patanjali and Charaka, or even including the Vedic astrology tradition. People kind of make one more great leap forward and say, well, not only might Patanjali have been Charak, but maybe Patanjali's hyphen Charak might be Jaimini or Parashara or something, and who's from yet another section of the timeline, like by a jump of 500 years. So I don't know, for people who were able to measure time by the second through something called water clocks, um, they weren't like asleep at the wheel for like
Mhm.
500 years. They claimed every second of those 500 years and cultivated a great history, a great culture, a great intellectual heritage. And yeah, at the great observatories and the royal courts, they had these droplet um, clocks that were calibrated and everything to measure time by the second or half second, like the half of a blink of an eye, I think was the smallest uh, time frame. So I don't think they would slack on 500 years going by, just because we cannot imagine their life. But
Yeah.
we cannot
Fascinating.
imagine people from 100 years ago. So I don't think,
So,
yeah.
yeah, it's so fascinating to try to
Yeah.
imagine back that far and connect the dots. Thanks for going there with me for a little bit. Let's
Sure. Yeah. Like I
let's
said, I
chat
could
about
do this all day, but
let's chat about the two versions of your
yeah,
book.
already. So again, going back to Amazon, you can just type in Vagbhat if you forget how to spell my last name or anything. Um, you can go there and mine pops up. Also, it looks like this nice fellow is released some audio on lectures from that. Here's a multi volume dictionary. So just a dictionary of terms in Vagbhat is $70, before June of 2026 in English, this was the case. So I felt like there was really a need to do what I could, and jump in there and try to do something that frankly I wanted to do all the time anyway, in my education, which was to try a translation. And so let me click on this green thumbnail to take you to uh, the item. So you can read its description. Um, it is the first time that the whole kit and caboodle of sutras can be condensed from like 9 volumes or 7 volumes down to one volume,
Wow.
two covers. And so that's a big deal. If you're an Ayurveda student, you know, you can put this in your backpack, and the 9 volumes, with their spelling mistakes, with their sort of production um, issues, would not be available to carry around with you. I remember being a student in Ayurvedic school, and like finally at age 30 or something that I realized, oh my God, I cannot just tag along in a backpack or a hip pack every book I want to refer to, like to the end of time. And so it really helped cultivate my memory as uh, a key value and tool for being a student. Like you'd think I did that already, but I didn't. I slacked on it for decades, and then finally kind of got to cultivating memory as a gift. And so uh, this is an addition that will help you um, by being pocketable. And of course, even this paperback version, and so you just click on the paperback version up here, and you can see the cute title, the cute cover. Um, Even it's kind of thick. I mean, it's 8.5 by 11 by 1 inch for the binding. Yeah. So it is a good one to begin with because it actually has less content than the Kindle version, which is itself only $9.99. So again, you can find that by clicking on the Kindle version up here. But going back to the paperback, um, it's 430 pages by PDF, and I think it came out to more than that. In reality, right? Oh no, 424. Okay, that's cool. I was off on that. So that's still like a chunk of weight with you, but I can see if you're in India at one of their mini Ayurvedic colleges and university hospitals of Ayurveda. It's the middle of the night. You have an ill patient that you want to uh, consult Vagbhata's ideas for herbology for and so on. This is the book you want with you in a kind of visceral sense. Um, the Kindle version uh, in a lot of markets of the planet, it's less accessible because you need to pay for the device. But at $9.99, for many people, it makes sense to opt for the Kindle version because it's not only everything in the paperback, but it contains two classical commentaries from medieval times. So we're talking, I think, 1500s AD here. Um, and the two famous commentaries are from Arunadatta and Hamadri. And there's a brief description on the Kindle page about them, where Arunadatta provided a very analytical, word by word kind of dictionary almost approach. Um, and that's been relied on almost like structurally to help students and then hence practitioners really understand the word for word of all of this Sanskrit. And then finally, Hamadri, who's more expansive and argumentative, taking up a bunch of uh, inconsistencies, perhaps, that Aruna Datta passes over. So in India, these two are read together with Vagbhat. And also, I want to honor when we were talking about the Brihat tree that, as I understand it, there's uh, in a lot of Ayurveda schools, the idea of Vagbhat as being the Buddhist practitioner, not
Mhm.
the surgeon, not the wanderer, um, but the stable kind of clinician that you go to see for the whole of your life, um, and who you could like honor and trust and rely on. And he took a very contemplative, but very intellectual at the same time approach. And so that's why I chose this green image for the Kindle edition, because Buddhism, both in terms of the astrology of the Buddha and the astrology of Buddhists, there tends to be a very beautiful Mercury pattern of discernment, right? Of the diamond of perception, of intellectual cognition as discernment. That's um, something I've noticed for Buddhists and for the charts of the Buddha. These charts are very well conserved over this millennia, really, for the Buddha. So I chose green because I think of Vagbhat as a Buddhist, or at least a Buddhist style sort of practitioner of discernment, um, and of the intellect by extension. Um, so again, his name itself means, wonderful speech, and so what does he speak of? You can read it here. Maybe I'll try to make this bigger if I can. Maybe I cannot. Oh, I cannot. Okay. Um, that's interesting. Okay. I normally I can make the text bigger, but okay, I'll figure out why. So you can read the definition. This actually is a sutra itself. The compendium is the departments contained within the compendium. Um, so Kaya Balaga Hordvanga Shalya Dimshra Duragashan Ashtavangani Tashya Hush Chikitsa Yeshu Samshrita. So those are the same like 8 departments of medicine that you would find at Boulder Community Hospital. They are uh, uh, thoracic medicine, pediatrics, ears, nose, and throat, um, uh, toxicology, um, virility or fertility, psychiatry, and so on. The 8 limbs of Ayurveda have themselves been well conserved over the millennia. So that all of that sutra itself is, I believe, in Vagbhat early on, and so um, it is, yeah. And so so to the content of it is rolled out, ROLLED is rolled out in front of you um through the chapters. So there's 6 sections, but they cover everything. I wonder if you were able to flip through it and if anything caught your eye that you'd like us to explore.
And what I love about flipping through this is it on anything that my eye lands on is like interesting, helpful, accessible wisdom. It's talking about the doshas, it's talking about herbs and foods that I know and have access to. So
Yeah.
as a practitioner, it's a wonderful resource, but also just like as a person, I just feel like Ayurveda at its core is accessible. So my eye is landing on something on every page, but I do think it's interesting too that people might like more information about how it's organized because is it
Mm-hmm.
divided? It's not divided by the 8 limbs per section, right?
No, that would be too nice. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that I shouldn't say that, but that would be too easy, might be a better way of putting it. No, no, it's not. So instead, I mean, that's a great question. Instead, 6 sthana or chapters, which themselves, as you can see by either flipping through the sample on the website or buying um, the book and looking at the table of contents, I mean, there's dozens of subchapters within each sthana. And yeah, what I think it might make sense to sort of talk about the titles, the meta chapter titles themselves, the sthanas. So
Mhm.
Sutra Sthana, the first sthana, is the chapter on sutras, like these dense poems of philosophy, and in some sense philology, um, and like I feel like they set the landscape or something, in poetry. So
Mhm.
this is a focus on the poetics of the body, like
Mhm.
it lays the landscape of the body in poems, if you will. That might be how I describe it. So you know, there's a chapter on life. There's a chapter on the day. There's a chapter on the seasons. There's a chapter on just what is illness and what is substance. I'm just reading chapters 1, 2, 3, etc. The subchapters within that sthana. Um, the doshas, the variations of the doshas, the rasa, the taste and color and tone of things. There's a chapter on basti. On like the foundational, almost like the architecture of Ayurveda conceptually as laid out in these little poems. And I should say each of these subchapters of the sthana themselves have like a dozen or two, or maybe up to 3 sutras to them. So this is quite a lot of sutras here.
Mhm.
Um, Next sthana is Sharira sthana. and that's the body sthana. So I love this one because it's really about garbha, about in utero health, so fetal health. So that's wonderful. And I know you and many other wonderful practitioners help women at that stage of their lives in pregnancy and, of course, the little baby in utero and how to help the family during that very important stage of the constellation forming of the family. So that's wonderful. Nidana Sthana is next. So that's like treatments, right? So uh this is I think we're starting to get more technical. For example, we're at the start of today we're talking about prameha, diabetes. We see a chapter on on that, chapter 10. Uh there's various other like complications, shall we say, like illnesses, like stuck doshas and so on, like very, what in Ayurveda at least would be considered big deal situations. Um, so I want to jump in and interrupt myself at this moment by saying that if you were to get the Kindle version, not only does it include these two huge additional commentaries from the medieval times, but it makes the whole package searchable, bookmarkable, and annotatable. Um,
Mm.
so if you do have an e-reader, and you can read it on any e-reader, these days you can get an e-reader for your pocket, or one that snaps to the back of your phone or something, and you can pull it out in the middle of the night while working at an Ayurvedic hospital in Pune or something. So, so yes, it's great to have the physical volume with your own pencil marks and as an aid to your own brain and your own memory. Uh, but the Kindle has some benefits. It's one third the price, three times the content, and holds all of the bookmarks and annotations too that you might want to add to it. But I can understand if people want to avoid that.
Is the Kindle version searchable?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah, yeah, that's
You
really
could
what made me
type
think
in pitta.
diabetes or something. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, almost every sutra would have pitta in it, but yeah. Indeed, or prameha, or barley. Like I was looking up something and I came across a section on barley, and I thought of you because you sent out a newsletter a few months ago or last year or something on how much you love barley, and you and
Mhm.
I conversed about how it's a form of Venus, and
Mhm.
it just made me smile to see the section in Vagbhat come up by chance where it talks about all these Venusian qualities of
Mhm.
barley, and it was
Mhm.
just confirmation of what I had learned before, and what you and I had talked about the beauty of barley, so to speak.
Mhm. Oh, I
That
love
it,
that.
yeah, it does increase kapha and so on. I don't have
Mhm.
it right in front of me, but I could pull it up. But
But if
uh,
you had the Kindle,
the
you
Kindle,
could search it right
yep,
now.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, in fact I think I can do this. Let me hold on one second. And I do know you have to go soon, so I will try to make it fairly fast. Okay, hold on. There we go. I'm going to because with Kindle as well, you can pull it up on your computer screen. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to continue resuming sharing. Okay, so this is what the text looks like. So you just click on the little magnifying lens, and I'm going to type in barley. And it's going to come up a few times, I think. Yeah, 435 times. But I'm just thinking, what was the one I had just read? Um, Fairly. It was an early in the book. Trying to think.
Yeah, it would be fun to read some out loud so
Yeah,
that people kind of understand how the translations land.
yeah, yeah. I'm half of my brain right now is trying to remember the context that I saw it in. Um, mm, 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 mm. Okay. Uh, okay. Okay, I think it's down here. This might be too much pressure in the moment. Among the shuka grains, I think that might be it. Let's try that. Okay, yeah. So here we're talking about the different kinds of grains, and we'll just stay on this page for a second. Um, so you can see it sort of highlights the word you searched for. Uh, okay. Oh, I lost it. Okay. Among all these, uh, the grains, like the good grains, i.e. cereals, Yabaka, a type of barley, is also the worst. So right now, this is him sort of ranking the different grains. Flax is hot, sweet in taste, alleviates vata, and becomes pitta aggravating and pungent in after effect, digestive after effect, also known as vipaka. Um, the typical reader would know vipaka at this point. So you can read about safflower. It's used for copper reduction, right? Safflower oil. And so it's pungent to reduce copper. You can see how new grain is versus heavy grain and so on. So this is a whole translation on grains. And for people who live a lot on grains, this will be for real helpful. So we have sesame is hot. It's used for vata reduction, which is to say for cold reduction. It's beneficial for the skin. It's used topically. Cold to the touch, but good for hair strengthening and heavy. Again, why is that helpful for vata? Because vata is so light in its qualities, and so on. So I think the exact barley section was in this chapter, but was earlier. And so here we have cowpea, one of my favorites, which is black-eyed peas in English. Um, and so just this chapter treats the uh, digestive effects of all of these different kinds of grains and um, legumes. So for people, for a community, a whole culture and country who are still mostly vegetarian, this is all incredibly um, helpful, to understand how their diet is affecting them. Uh, yeah, here's maybe closer to what I was thinking of. Yeah, I could uh really get into just the topic of barley, I think. So
Mhm.
yeah, is that maybe enough for right now for that?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
Okay, good. So going back to the presentation of the book itself, I think just for like another month or something, it's included, the Kindle edition is included in Kindle Unlimited. Then it's going to go to $9.99, but you can purchase it at any time, including now, and keep it for as long as you want. Um, at least through the Amazon system of electronic books, which is a whole topic. I understand, but it's let's see, it was just released a little over a month ago. Um, the Kindle version has over 6,000 pages compared to 400 pages in the printed version. So, um, yeah, I'm trying to think what else I should say. Um,
Maybe just explicitly say, who do you think this book is for? You mentioned it's not maybe
mm,
beginners. You mentioned that it is practitioners in India, but let's just talk about that a
yeah.
little bit.
Oh,
Who's it for?
okay, who is it for? I think that there's a wide swath of middle ground there between the newcomer and the advanced practitioner who might have all of this memorized anyway. So what I've witnessed is that the newcomer, whether they're going to become a scholar or a practitioner eventually themselves, or they're simply like new to receiving treatments or both, um, they're amazed and fall in love with Ayurveda. I mean, how can you not? It's so wonderful. And then again, this is probably not the first book to read, although you're welcome to, of course, have it on your shelf at any time. But after you start to have under your belt the sort of gut knowledge um, of yoga and pranayama and um, food as medicine and the basic tenet of Ayurveda that with good food of medicine, there's no use, and without good food of medicine, with good food of medicine, there's no need. Without good food of medicine, there's no use. You know, and the sort of importance of diet and lifestyle in Ayurveda, and you start to really say, "Oh, there's something here," and it's consistent and self-coherent and ever upwardly climbing in ability to connect dots that seemed atomistically apart from each other. Uh, when you're like at that level, and probably about that level, you start to be introduced to Charak, Sushruta, and Vagbhat either by taking some classes at a local school or online. Um, then I think at that stage, which is still a large variety of people, that's when to get this book and to keep it with you. There's no like part two to this. You know, this is um, Vagbhat in his entirety. And so if you have this, you don't need to buy it twice. So to buy, you know, a second volume or something like that. But that wide variety of people in my mind include yoga teachers. They include, again, sort of practitioners of Ayurveda or pranayama and so on in training. Um, or they might be just students in love with
Mhm.
India. Or they might be people with digestive problems and but not wanting to eat red meat or something. And actually, there's a whole chapter on types of meat and types of milks, animal milks, and types of um uh like butters made from like buffalo milk or camel milk and so on. So it's not anti animal for people who do want to consume animal products. So it's for a whole
Yeah.
wide variety of people.
Yeah, that was really beautiful. Thank you, Renee. It sounds like it's for people who want to study a little bit, people
Yeah.
who are beyond just the phase of curiosity. They've kind of built some foundation
Mm.
and are ready to immerse in a little more depth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is I think it's solid. Like I feel glad for having done this, I feel a little bit proud, I guess, and um, just like it was so needed. And I've always wanted to since I was in school myself. And we did have up on the shelves the 8 volumes of Charaka, the 3 volumes of Shushut. But frankly, between you and me and the road watching YouTube, no one really opened those books, to be completely honest. And this is really great students at a really great school. And perhaps the reason why was because of some production issues in those books. And yet they were priceless. They still are priceless. So uh little baby steps as we go along, um, to always climb higher and do better. And maybe I'll leave you with this before you go, because I think you have to go soon. That when I was in school, I had a very clear like sensation almost of which my Jyotish schooling and the Ayurvedic schooling integrating really wonderfully with the yoga that I knew and practiced, frankly, much more back then, before my 5 years of sitting still and studying astrology. But I had this sensation of climbing a mountain. Um, and when you first walk up to a big hill, let's call it, perhaps a mountain, it seems like everything around the ring of the base of the mountain is so far apart from each other.
Mm,
Um, like how on earth can Vastu connect to pranayama or something like that? And then the thing is, you can circumambulate. And in fact, sort of like Ramakrishna or something. Like you can find your hill and worship it and circumambulate around it, as your meditative process. Also, what you can do, and maybe the circumambulation is a version of this, but is to ever slowly, or whatever your rate of climb is, to climb slowly or medium or fast up the mountain. And so, with the help of a guru, perhaps, or a teacher. And what you find as you go, and circumambulation is a saner approach than scrambling up the side. But as you go up the cone of the mountain, you realize that these fields
mhm,
get closer and closer together until
mm,
you're at the very tip top and you realize they're all one, they're
mm.
exactly at a point together. So
Yeah. Yes.
you've had that sensation too?
Um, I wouldn't have described it as that, but as you say it, yes, I relate.
Okay, yeah, very good. I love it. Yeah, it's so good. I mean, it's just really good knowledge, and it's interesting that when this book came out, it was at the start, #1 on the medical references page of Amazon. And I was
Mm,
surprised by that. Like out of everything,
mm,
Hindu reference books or whatever, it was medical reference books that it came out as #1 on. And I think it's because, like, what caught people's eye was that there was even sterilization of instruments, 1500 BCE and stuff like that. Like people, Lister, in France or something, you had the Dickens of a time, convincing people to clean their hands when they went in for surgery and stuff. And that was like 1857 or something, 80.
yeah.
So there's this vast history, this vast culture
Mhm,
that we should all know more about. And not only just kind of to be good students and be patted on the head or the shoulder, mm, not at all about that actually, but because the integrity and the wisdom, I mean, wisdom is a meager word, for really what is here, um the jnana, the ultimate wisdom, of consciousness, of the body as cosmic consciousness. It's not like bumper sticker language, like it's very well demonstrated, proven even in these texts from 5,000 years ago.
Time tested.
Yeah, like the best evidence-based stuff I can think of, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
Wow, Renee, thank you so much. I loved going on that journey, and I hope it's really helpful for others, especially Ayurvedic practitioners, to really situate in the meaning and the significance of Vagbhat, along
Mm.
with the whole triad.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to keep them with us if we're going to honor Ayurveda. We have to include them, that's for sure. Otherwise, we're unmoored and who knows what, skating on thin ice. So, um, yeah, thank you for honoring this work by taking your time to talk with me about it. And like I said a few minutes ago, I feel good about it. Like I think it does add to uh planetary knowledge. I'm personally glad for the journey, for having gone through it, like hugely glad, and my life has changed for the better. And as you say, it's just a ton of fun to flip through and like, oh, that's why I love black-eyed peas so much, or that's why peanuts are, funny in this way or that way, and so on.
Mhm. It's all there.
All right, you take care. Hariom. Tat
Hariom.
sat.
Thank
Namaste.
you.
Bye
Take
bye.
care.